Okay, so now we're going to reverse a linked list. This is a very common interview question. If you're going into an interview, make sure that you know this. So we'll just call the method reverse, and let's bring up our linked list. So at a high level, what we're going to do is this. We're going to take head and tail, and we're going to switch them. And then we're going to take all of these arrows one by one all the way down and have them point the other way. And that is a reverse linked list. Easier said than done. So let's put everything back the way it was and walk through how to do this. So first thing, let's switch head and tail. We'll set temp equal to head. Then we can set head equal to tail. Then we can set tail equal to temp. And now we have reversed head and tail. So let's look at the 3 lines of code to do this. We have to create the temp variable, have it point to the head, and then we say head is going to be equal to the tail, and then tail is going to be equal to temp. Simple enough. And this is our code so far. Let's bring our linked list back up here. I took head and tail out because we won't need those for the rest of the video, but we will need a couple more variables. We're going to need a variable that is on the right side of temp. I'm going to call this one after. And we're going to have one on the left of temp. I'm going to call this one before, and that one's going to point to none to begin with. And then these 3 variables are going to iterate through the linked list as we are reversing everything. So let's put this back and create these 2 variables. So after equals temp.next and before equals none. Let's look at these 2 lines of code in with the rest. So what we've done here is we've created a temp variable, an after variable, a before variable. We've switched head and tail. And now comes the hard part. We'll bring our list back up here. And we're going to have a for loop that goes through the length of the linked list. So we'll say for underscore, because we're not going to use that variable in the for loop. We've talked about that before. In range, self.length. So we're going to go the length of this. You could use a while loop instead of a for loop if you wanted to, but I'll use a for loop here. And we're going to have 4 steps in our for loop. First, after equals temp.next. And in the first iteration, it already is. Temp.next equals before. So that is temp.next. It's that arrow. This is what flips that arrow over the other way. Equals before. Remember, before points to none to begin with. And the thing that makes reversing the linked list difficult is you can see there's now a gap between the 11 and the 3. So you have to make sure that your linked list never breaks in such a way that you can't get to something across that gap. That is what the after variable is there for. Then we say before equals temp. We're going to move that up. And then temp equals after. And that's what gets temp across this gap. So we'll walk through this a couple of times as we go to the end and look at the logic here. After equals temp.next. This has to come first. All 4 of these have to be in exactly the right order. That has to go across before this next line that is going to take that arrow from the 3 to the 23 and flip it the other way. Now you have a gap here. So after has to be moved over before you create that gap. And you have to move before up to temp before you move temp across this gap. So those 4 steps have to be in order. So now let's do it again. After goes across, we flip that arrow over, and we can't move temp up yet. We have to move before up first, then we can move temp over. So now this is going to be the last iteration. After equals temp.next. So now temp.next next is none. So this is going to make after equal to none. And then temp.next equals before. That flips that last arrow over. And really we are done here, but of course the for loop has to finish. Before equals temp, temp equals after. This is how it all concludes. And then we stop running the for loop, and we have a reversed linked list. Now let's add the for loop in with the rest of our code. And that is the method for reverse. So we'll look at this in a moment in VS Code, and we will create a linked list that looks like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll run reverse, and it'll be 4, 3, 2, 1. So let's flip over to VS Code. So there is our reverse method, and this creates our linked list 1, 2, 3, 4, and this will print out that list 1 through 4. So I'll run this, and that prints out our linked list 1, 2, 3, 4. So come down here, and in between creating the linked list and this print list method, I'm going to paste this line of code here, my linked list dot reverse. Then we will print it, and it should print out 4, 3, 2, 1. And I'll run this, and that prints 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, looks like we have a working method for reverse.